And now for the keynote. Tonight's keynote is very, very special. We're honored to have with us today Tim Gunn, the former, let's hear it for Tim Gunn. He is the former Director of Admissions and Associate Dean at Parsons School of Design. He's also the former Chair of the Department of Fashion Design at Parsons. And currently, he's the Creative Director of Liz Claiborne, the host of Bravo's Guide to Style, and the co-host of Bravo's hit show, Project Runway. Design education is at the heart of everything he does. And he'll talk about it with a panel of designers from Project Runway, including Emmett McCarthy and Milan Breton, and from Top Design, Carissa Perez-Fuentes. Let's hear it from Mr. Tim Gunn, guys.
Wow, what a reception. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madeline. And to the winners of the books, either congratulations or my condolences. I don't know which to offer you. Actually, the book's fun. I came here prepared to say certain things to you, all of which have been swept out the door because of you. In my 45 minutes plus that I spent with you, it's really caused me to reevaluate what I want to say. And I'm going to say it. You all are very, very lucky because A, you're here, and B, you have a semblance of idea about what it is you want to do. I know there's some ambiguity, some ambivalence, but at least you're here. And when I was your age, I wouldn't have been here. I was on, I don't know what kind of path I was on, but it wasn't a straight one, and it wasn't one that I could really anticipate. I thought I wanted to be a writer, and I will share with you, those of you who came to see me have already heard this, I was in a lot of schools trying to find myself. I prided myself on being a good academic student because it was the way that I validated myself. I wasn't good at sports. I won't even go into all of it, but I thought the only way I can really prove to my peers that I'm of some worth is to study hard and to get good grades, and I did that. But I was miserable. I mean, I was really seriously a miserable young person. I was very introverted and just sort of stuck to myself, and I was in, more than half a dozen colleges, always trying to find where I would fit in. And I finally found a place where I fit in, and it was at a school of fine arts. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't reaching out and trying to grasp where the answer was. What book do I read to find out about this? Where do I go in the library stacks to learn about this? For the first time in my life, the answer to the problem that was being solved was within me. It was not in the back of the book. And for me, that was a really profound epiphany of sorts. And it changed my whole way of thinking about everything that I did, and it changed my whole academic direction, my career. I'm causing the entire room to leave. Sorry, guys. And I studied fine arts. I studied painting and drawing and sculpture for 4 years, and I became a sculptor. And at the time that I studied fine arts, it was the early to mid 70s, before any of you were even born. It was a very different world. It was a different world of design, and it was a different world of design education. And other than architecture, there was a semblance of study of graphic design and some commercial photography, but there really wasn't anything else. I mean, industrial design existed in engineering schools, and the whole art of it was not something that people really studied or understood. And I went on this path that led to sculpture and to a career in it, and I made money. I supported myself by building architectural models initially, and then by teaching. And I fell in love with teaching. I fell in love with the whole experience of working with young people, and at the time I was still young. and of helping them tap into these resources in themselves and really discovering who they are, because it's all about who each of you happens to be, and nurturing and cultivating that and making you the best at it. And this eventually led to my moving to New York from Washington, D.C., and a dream that I thought I'd never achieve. And I moved to New York to work at Parsons and to work in the admissions office and to work with students who were going into any one of 12 academic departments. And in that capacity, I really had to learn design. And I made a serious mistake with the then Department of Fashion Design chair, a man by the name of Frank Rizzo, when I said to him, oh, I understand what it's like to be a fashion designer. It's just like creating a piece of sculpture. You have an infrastructure, and you have a skin, you have a textile, you put over it, and voila, there it is. And he shook his finger at me and he said, no, 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 no. He said, you couldn't be more mistaken. He said, it's nothing like being a sculptor. A sculptor has the luxury of time. A sculptor is the sculptor's client. And you're not susceptible to the whims of context, of societal and cultural context. Well, they're not whims. In some ways, it's like some master plan we just don't know about. He said designers have a problem that they have to solve that's not their own. They have to make it their own. They have to embrace it. And they have serious deadlines. And they have a customer who has customers. The work has to sell. And I will add on that topic, it's one of the things that I'm proudest about when it comes to American fashion, that we look at all of it through a lens of commerce. It's very important. But back to Mr. Rizzo's comments to me, and he said, and as soon as the collection is shown, you have to turn on a dime and start it all over again. And those were very important words for me and really changed my whole point of view about design. And for 24 years, 7.5 of them spent as chair of the Department of Fashion Design. I've been a big champion of design and the fact that designers change our world. And they change it profoundly. And in some ways, it can be as huge and, let's just say life-enabling as an artificial heart, or it can be something as equally profound as making a beautiful environment, or making someone feel really great about what it is that they're wearing and make them look great. Designers really change the world, and we need you. We need you to be in our future. I'm constantly worried about what does the future hold. I'm worried until I'm with a group of young people like you, and then I'm instantly placated. The future's gonna be fine. We have great people moving ahead. We have visionaries, and your world is very different from the world that I leapt into. And I just want to say to all of you, this is not a commitment forever. I mean, look at my own life's path. It has been nothing if not serendipitous. And would I have ever planned that I'd end up in the fashion industry? No, but I did. I mean, I would never have planned that I'd be speaking before you tonight the way that I am, and I'm thrilled about it. So just remember, whatever you do, do it at 1,000%. Get into the industry in which you're interested in any capacity that you can. As students, have internships. Work with as many companies as you can, because you'll find within each company there's a different culture. Don't make any judgment about an industry based on one particular company, culture, and experience, especially in fashion. Just trust me, they go from the sublime to the ridiculous. So embrace things fully. Think seriously about context. To be honest with you, when it comes to fashion, it's not just about a pretty dress. It's about a pretty dress that exists in a context that's societal, cultural, historic. You have to know your history, and it's economic and political to a degree also. And that's true in any of the design fields, but it's especially true in fashion. Does the dress need to be pretty? You bet. But if it's just a pretty dress, it's not enough. So designers really are barometric gauges of our society and culture. Does it sound serious? Yes, because it really is. It really and truly is. And I just wish all of you the very best for your future, because your future is ours. And from where I stand, our future couldn't possibly look brighter. So I thank you for being you, and don't disappoint me, all right? Thank you. We have a very exciting panel of designers, and I'm going to engage them in a Q&A, and then we're going to engage you in a Q&A, or you're going to engage us in a Q&A. We're not going to ask you questions, you'll ask us questions. So I'd like to welcome Carissa from Top Design, Season 1. Whoops. Carissa, come sit right here.
That was the best.
That's quite an entrance. And Milan from Season 3 of Project Runway, sorry.
Hello, everyone.
Come over here. And
Hello.
Emmett McCarthy from Season 2 of Project Runway. Why don't you have a seat right there? Oh, here. You have one. Have a seat. Have a seat. So, let's start with Emmett. Emmett, you have achieved a great deal of success. You did before Project Runway. In many ways, Project Runway gave you a whole new career trajectory. And you wanted to talk to these young people about a synopsis of what you've achieved and how, and any advice that you would give them.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. And I say thank you to Tim because Tim gave me the same advice that he gave you just a moment ago when I was studying at the Educational Center for the Arts in New Haven. It was a high school for talented and gifted students. And one of the things that I think is really important when you're deciding what you want to do is that you have to find a network of people who believe in you. Because without having the support of an unconditional support of following what your dreams are, you're just going to be stifled. So when you're deciding to take a direction, you want to find people who you can talk to and say, this is an idea that I have, I want to be a fashion designer. And, you know, as a guy who was going to an art school, it wasn't very difficult for me, and I grew up in a very cultured community. So people were a little more apt to accept the idea of me being a fashion designer. But I think that everything, no matter what I decided to do and outside of my career, it was really important to me to find people who loved me and believed in me. So that I think is like the essential thing that you want to do. You want to find people who support your ideas, whether they be in any of the artistic disciplines. Because when you go out into the real world, it's amazingly difficult. Like, in fashion design, they really only want you if you sell. And you could be really talented and you can be really handsome or beautiful, but at the end of the day, people have got to do the basic things like pay their rent, eat, entertain themselves, and that's all done by, you know, selling a product, selling an idea, providing a service. So I think for me, I made a lot of companies a lot of money. And how I did that was by looking at the culture and being aware of what was around me and looking at what people were wearing and what people were willing to pay and creating something very special. And I wanted to create something more special that was coveted. But I was very alert to the trends. And so I did really grunt work. First of all, I went to Parsons School of Design, which was like survival. It was not a fun experience, but from that experience, I learned a lot. And when I got out into the industry, people respected me because I knew what I was doing. So that was a very important foundation. And I think that education is something that you're going to get and you're going to continue and you're going to have to continue because the competitive edge is what you know and who you know. So
Emmett, can I just interject for a moment? You heard Emmett talk about the importance of things selling, but I'm going to give you a refrain that we use at Liz Claiborne, that we have now at Liz Claiborne. Unless that product that you're selling is absolutely irresistible to the customer, it doesn't matter, and you may as well not do it. So design still is at the core of everything that we have to do. It's just that there's that ancillary aspect that is definitely about the product selling. But it's got to be a irresistible product because there's too much competition out there.
Having gone on to Project Runway after about 20 years of making other companies money, I decided that people know who I am now, so I have to sort of show up and do my thing. So I decided to open my own company and define a brand. And I have to sell, and owning a boutique and interacting with the customers is the biggest education I've ever gotten in my whole career. I have sold countless of millions of dollars worth of clothes. I mean, I once I worked as a design director for menswear for Kelwood Corporation, which is about $2.5 billion, and I was in charge of a $300 million division. And one day they took me and said, oh, we're expecting this big shipment of shirts. So I went to this huge dock and I saw these containers, and I was like, oh my God, that's all the merchandise that's going across the country, to JCPenney's, to Macy's, everything. I never understood the importance of communicating with my customer like I do now. And in design now, I know that things have got to fit, things have got to be good quality, things have got to be the right price. So when you go to design school, you're basically going to learn how to communicate and how to meet the needs of your customer, because that's what it's all about. It's like everyone wants an iPhone now because it's a cool thing, it's information, it's a way to communicate, but it's a product and someone came up with that idea. And in school, you learn, first of all, you grow up and you learn how to interact with other people and you build relationships, but in the long run, you get out and you offer a service. And in design, it's just like basically a service that you provide. And I feel really fortunate that I've had people to believe in me throughout my career and who support me. And now I feel my customers support me.
Thank you very much. And can I put in a plug for your boutique? Yes, visit them on Elizabeth Street, EMC squared. It's beautiful. Carissa.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I tripped.
Carissa represents interior design. And
Hey, guys.
what advice would you like to give the young people here who are thinking about interior design as a career? And I'll add you were a finalist on Top Design, so you're a good interior designer as well, which is not to say they aren't all, but you
They will be.
persevered.
This is going to be the only thing that I really have to tell you guys is when I went on Top Design, I was still in my first year of interior design school. I studied set design, I studied theater, and I studied philosophy at like various colleges. Much like you, trying to figure out what on earth I was doing. I went to a magnet school for high school where I studied interior design and had a fire and lost my portfolio, note, and couldn't go to design school because I had no portfolio. So I kind of ran around everywhere, studying all kinds of different things. But because I loved design, when I studied theater, when I studied whatever it was, film, all kinds of things, I always ended up doing design. I did sets, and that's what I always did because that's what's in me and that's what I love. And I decided at one point I was going to stop working, doing set design and doing production, and go back and study interior design, which is what I always really loved. And I got into FIT, which is a great school. It's yay! It's a fantastic school. It's an affordable school. It has a great interior design program that nobody knows about, with great professors, and it was just the best experience. I was only there for a little under a year, but it was the best time I had, and I learned more there. I think I would not have survived a day on Top Design without one semester at FIT.
You wouldn't have.
No, I wouldn't have. And I have to tell you guys that even though, everybody knows who I am now, and I can design things and I can have clients because people know what I do, I wish so much that I had just stayed in school. it is so much more difficult to do everything, to learn every day, to start from scratch, to reinvent the wheel or redesign the wheel every day. And the most important thing for you guys is to just get an education and just get it over with. Because all of that information is like an encyclopedia, and it's going to be in your head. And then you can go off and do all kinds of things, break all kinds of boundaries, and make all kinds of changes and break all the rules. But it's so important to have like a knowledge of history and what has been designed, and to know what's going to be designed and what you need to design. So that's the most important thing I think I want to share with you guys. And FIT is fantastic if anybody.
Carissa, thank you. For Carissa, for you, and for Emmett and Milan, certainly for you, at the core of what you do, or what's behind everything that you do, is really an unbridled passion. Yeah. You love it, and I'd love to have you speak to that.
Sure. I actually never studied. I never went to school for fashion or design. I actually grew up performing, and at an early age, about 11 years old, I started sketching and designing beautiful dresses. And I thought, oh my God, one day I'm going to make these dresses and sell them and make millions of dollars. The dream that we all have. And if it wasn't for the passion that I had with the walls that were put up against me growing up with my family, constantly saying, you'll never make it, you'll never do it. If I didn't keep trying, I would never be where I am today. So no matter if someone says, no, you can't do it, just look at them and kind of look at where they are in their life and see if they're really happy themselves,
So it's that passion.
Passion really motivates you and drives you,
If you ask yourself in the middle of an all-nighter getting ready for a final project presentation, if you ask yourself, why am I doing this? And the answer is because I love it and I can't do anything else, you're doing the right thing. You know that you're in the right place. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Why don't we get some questions from you? I think they're bringing a microphone to you.
How stressful are deadlines? Over here.
Who wants to answer that?
Let's see. Do you want me to answer it?
Sure.
Okay. I'm actually showing. Well, I had a showing at New York Fashion Week. I'm showing at Brooklyn and Alice actually in the next week. And
Can you just say a bit about what that means?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
I instantly think that you know everything.
Because I want them to understand how difficult it all is.
Basically, to have a collection showing, you have to go through 6 months of designing a cohesive collection that people can really wear. I mean, I used to design collections that were so frou-frou that could only be worn on the red carpet and rarely worn on the red carpet because there were missing pieces that would, expose body parts and things that were really not fashionable. But the main thing is, when you're looking at a deadline, I mean, New York Fashion Week is so important. And we're always working up to the last minute, literally sewing on buttons backstage before the show starts. I mean, we've got model changes happening. This last season, I had a model show up at 12:50 for a 1 o'clock show. We had to refit another model into the clothes that she was going to be wearing, and do a totally different walkthrough for the 3 looks that this other model was going to be wearing, because we had to send her away because she came so late. So I mean, it's always a constant business of surprise, but always you have to stay really focused in what you're doing and your vision as well.
It's called make it work.
Exactly.
Hi, my name is Amy Hill from Shredder High School, Architecture and Design, and this is for Carissa. Did you ever finish at FIT?
I never finished at FIT, and I regret it. I regret it so much. I still want to go back. I stay in touch with everyone in my class and with my professors. I have my own personal Tim Gunn over at FIT, who I call about everything. And, what I was telling you guys before, when you saw me picking out fabrics on Top Design, how many yards do I need to cover a couch? I have no idea. And these are all things that you learn in school and that you learn through experience working for other people and interning at other companies, and you can just avoid so many issues if you do finish, if you do have all that information, because there's Matt, you guys know Matt, he won Top Design, right? I call Matt every day to ask him something. And I'm making it work. A lot of it is about just talent, and just getting it done and having the determination to get things done. But I miss that education, and I really wish that I had finished school before going on a reality television show and starting my own firm, yes.
I just want to add to Carissa's remarks. We were talking earlier, she and I said that in the audition process of Project Runway, I refused to even look at the work of anyone who hasn't graduated school, because my question for them then is, all right, let's say you win Project Runway. What do? You go back to your senior year? So you all need to finish school.
Absolutely.
And another question, how does it feel to be a female in this industry?
I don't feel like I'm a female in this industry, in the interior design industry, just because I don't really feel like I'm in the industry. I'm a little bit on the outskirts, which works with being I'm a minority, I'm a Hispanic, and I'm a female, and I'm also not a traditional interior designer, and I have no traditional education, and there's all these things that put me on the fringe. So, I'm just me, and I get up every day, and I do what I love, and I finish the day, and I go to bed, and I hang out with my husband and my dog, and I get up every day and just do it, and just make it happen. And I don't consider, I don't feel that pressure. But you'll let me know when you have a job at some top firm and you feel like all under pressure.
The microphone is coming. There we are. Hi.
Hi. Would you say it's best to stay in New York City if you want to do design, or would you be supportive of a person exploring other cities and other scenes of design?
Emma?
I think that we're in the universe is flat now. My own personal experience was, after I finished Parsons, I lived in England, and then I lived in Paris, and then I lived in Milan, and everything made it a much richer experience. And I have someone who works for me who lives in Miami, and everything is done via the internet. So I think that if you can't get there, you can get to that experience virtually, but I think travel is an amazing inspiration, and I think that living in another culture gives you an additional advantage because you have another way of looking at things.
Can I just say, though, there is something fantastic about New York City as a designer, just because it's almost like living inside of a design library, because there's so much happening. You have access to events like this, and there are a lot of things happening all over the place also. I always kind of think people who don't want to live in New York are kidding, but travel is so important to sort of wrap your mind around what people are designing all over the world. There's so many small towns and other countries and all kinds of things going on everywhere. And so it's a good balance of everything, I think, is important.
I just want to underscore what you're saying by adding that it is important to use the resources of the city if you're here. And I can't tell you the frequency with which I would go into one of the Parsons design studios on a Saturday or a Sunday and say to the students there, get out of here. Go explore this great city that we're in. Take advantage of the fact that you're here. If you're just within these four walls, you may as well be in the middle of Montana. I mean, it doesn't make any difference.
I agree with that, and I also I took a class with Julia Cameron, and she used to tell us that we used to have to go on artist dates, and I've continued this in my career, of my own personal life actually, and once a week, I just get out and I do something that's, I go to a concert, I go to a museum, I go to the library, I go to some kind of event that's so off the beaten path, because you can get so much in New York City that is so unexpected. If you go to Bleecker Street and go into a chess store or some unbelievably curious little spots, you want to always expose yourself to as much as you can.
Thank you.
My question is, one of your main points was about how it's about your spirit and your heart and what you're really into. But all of you are sitting here because you were on TV. So I just wanted to know if you think you would be here without that experience, or if
No.
it would be different?
You don't
No.
think so?
No, I don't think so. And that's the thing, but it doesn't make up. I still feel like I'm missing something, and if I could have eliminated the TV part, I wouldn't be here with you, right? But I feel like I would know more about myself and about design before embarking on my career. No, I wouldn't be here.
I'll add to that you know us because of the power of television and the reach that it has. I certainly knew Emmett. In addition to knowing him from Parsons, I knew him professionally as a designer. The industry knew him, and the industry knew who I was, and I was certainly going to be discovering Milan because there was no question that he was going to be making his mark on the industry. But you know us for this reason, and frankly, the one reason why I wanted us to be with you for this panel was because in ways you really do know us, and in that sense we're accessible to you, and I thought that the comfort level of questions would be greater. Milan, do you want to say anything?
I would say being on television as well actually gave me, I think, the experience that I really didn't get from going to a university of fashion. I had the opportunity to work with Tim on the show, and it really gave me a real sense of who I was and what would help me in my career as a designer. But I was showing at New York Fashion Week for 4 seasons before I was on Project Runway. I also had my very first showing, Women's Wear Daily, Elle, Vogue, Vanity Fair, Harper's Bazaar. All of those editors were at my very first showing because they thought it was someone else, but they were there. Because there's someone that's the head of Fashion Week in South Africa named Jan Milan, and they thought I was him launching my collection in New York, and so they all came, and then I went up the catwalk, and they're like, oh my God, who the hell is this? But, but no, I think there's a certain comfort level, as Tim says, with us being here because you can bounce questions off of us. But honestly, if you really want it, and if you really want to be successful, you don't need a television show. Look at Marc Jacobs, look at Isaac Mizrahi, who was just here. Look at people like Donna Karan, people like that. They worked really hard, and they didn't have reality TV to push their career forward. Project Runway has helped me tremendously, I will say that, and I'm very grateful for the experience. But I think if you have a strong opinion about design, and I recommend highly going to school, because I never went to fashion school, and I had to teach everything. I had to teach myself everything that I've learned. And if I had gone to school, I probably would have saved myself the last 10 years, you know? So, yeah, I think if you really want it, you'll be there.
Thank you.
I actually would like to add to that. I think that it's important to have a mentor, and I think that we use television as the, access to people. And I think that being on Project Runway for me was like, I had no idea. But one day I was with a friend of mine, Erin, and she said, with one decision, you can change your life. So the fact that we're all up here because of Bravo was because someone asked us to show up. And the fact that you're all here is because someone asked you to come, and you made the decision to come. So it's in those small choices that you make that you impact your life. I was buying a pair of shoes in Paris, and some guy brought them out and said, I hope you like them, Emmett. I was like, how do you know my name? And he said, oh, I saw you on Project Runway. It's an amazing thing how people know you and how they relate to you, but it was because of one decision. It was a decision when Ina called me up and said, go on this audition. I questioned it. They said Tim was there. I was like, oh, okay, I'll go. And I showed up, and Tim was like, oh, Emmett, you're here. But, it was a decision that I made, and I was, it's like a game. You go in it to play, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, but you got to be in it. And one of my very dear friends always says to me, you got to be in the game to recover a fumble. And in fashion, you will drop the ball, you'll trip, you'll fall on your face. You just got to pick up and carry on in the game.
She was seconding.
Hello, my name is Nakia Dixon. I go to Charter High School for Architecture and Design, and I have a question for Carissa.
Hi.
Hello. I just want to know, how busy are you? Like, do you have time for a family and everything?
Yes, I'm working from home. That's a great thing about interior design. If you work for yourself, which, I mean, I don't necessarily suggest it because you actually end up working a lot more than if you just worked at a company. But I'm at home all the time, and, well, except for, when I'm running around buying things. But, no, I do have a lot of time. You can sort of control. I remember my first studio class at FIT, my professor, Nick Politis, who's fantastic, said, the best thing about interior design is that, you'll work for 6, 7, 8 months, and you'll bill somebody $80,000, and then you go on vacation to Europe for about 4 months and do whatever you want. Right?
Really?
That's what he does, apparently, and he makes it work. So, no, yeah, and it doesn't apply if you work at a firm, but I think you have a little bit more control if you want it. I think with anything you do, if you want control over your own life, you have to take it,
Can I just add something also, which is that what I love about the design fields right now, and I don't think this is ever going to change, is that you can create your own path. You can do it your own way. And do it.
Okay, this is going to be the last question.
Hi, I'm Rachel Fell, and I go to the Heschel School. Hi. I was wondering, how do you guys come up with something new every single different season or every single different room that you're designing?
Who wants to start along?
I guess I'll answer this first. The inspiration for my collections comes a lot from my travels growing up, but also New York City. Every street that you walk up is a different experience. I mean, you have beautiful architecture, you have the art. I'm very much a part of the entertainment community as well. So the Broadway shows, the film premieres, things like that. I'm seeing those, the concepts that the conceptual designers are putting out there, and everything sort of inspires what I do, each season, and the shapes that I create and the fabrics that I use, and the way I present the collection, and just the overall.
I think it's different for different designers. I think for me, I have like a internet inside, and it's like every time it just happens, and you start drawing one thing, and then it turns into something else, and then you think of something else, and then you see a fabric, and you say, oh, I like that color, and then everything just starts building up, and before you know it, you've designed something, and you think, where did that come from? And it just sort of happened. I don't know, some of you might have that experience, and some of you might like Milan, have something that inspires you, and I think it's different for everybody, but bottom line is that you kind of build it with your own. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't even know what it is.
That's another thing too. I think like
It's
when you're designing, you're draping and you're doing all that other and kinds of building shapes, and they sort of evolve with the fabric and the way that it falls and things like that. And then once it goes onto a real life model, then you see how it's really going to to happen, I guess.
But it only happens if you do it.
Yeah,
if
you
you
have
think
to take
about
the
it, it doesn't happen. It's all in the act of doing. Emmett, you want to add anything to that?
For me, I look at things, I do a lot of research, and I buy a lot of magazines, and I subscribe to WGSN, which is a worldwide service that tracks trends. I listen to my customers, and things that sell, I look at and I say, I'm going to reinterpret that. So things, and I'm building a brand. So for me, I have to have consistency in the flavor of what I'm doing each season, that it's cohesive each season. So people will say, that's an Emmett McCarthy. So there are some times that I am inspired just by color, and then times I'm inspired by a textile, or sometimes I'm on the subway and I see somebody who looks really great, and I think, oh, I got to remember that. You just got to pay attention, and how you boil it down and make it your own is, you know, what's quote unquote new.
And another thing too, I think the internet is an amazing resource. And I personally do a lot of, I read the blogs, which everyone told me not to going on television. But I read the blogs to see what the feedback is on the clothing, to see what women want, what men want, what people really are looking for in fashion. And it's I mean, you're the marketplace, in all honesty. So that's what I should be, you know, catering to.
So you're listening to two voices, the voices of your customer and your own voice, the voice that really informs who you are as a designer. So Milan and Carissa and Emmett, I want to thank you very, very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And to all of you, the greatest success, and we look forward to seeing you on this stage eventually. Okay? Thank you all.